Hi, welcome back. Next up, we will have Working on a Political Campaign by Hali.
Hi, everyone. Have any of you felt any stress around what's happening in our world currently? Yes! Well, me too. My name is Hali, and I chose to work on a political campaign for my senior project because I thought it would be one step towards change, a little good I could put out in the world in a way that I could feel like I was making some kind of positive impact. I know it's very easy to feel helpless right now, as a young person, but also as anyone who reads the news, and after kind of wallowing in that, I decided I wanted to do something that would give me hope. I've also always had an interest in politics. When I was in 8th grade, I wanted to be president of the United States. And while I now want to be a lawyer, my desire to fight for people's rights has been a vein I'm still following and that led me to this project. So what did I do? I worked through a website called Mobilize Us, which functions as a way for volunteers in any organization to coordinate events. So my first step in this project was making a Mobilize Us account and joining the organization Talarico for Texas, which is the team of volunteers and organizers who work on James's campaign. I also joined an app called Slack and a channel within that app for Team Talarico that helps connect volunteers and organizers directly with each other. I'll explain what these terms on the screen mean as my presentation continues, but as an overview, over the course of the last few months, I became a volunteer deputy registrar. I block walked, I phone banked, and I was able to meet and work with campaign members and other volunteers. But before I go into the specifics of what I did, I want to talk about why I chose to work on this campaign specifically. If you don't know who he is, James Talarico is a Democratic member of the Texas House of Representatives, and as of early March 2026, he is also the Texan Democratic nominee for a U.S. Senate seat, with the Senate election being held in early November later this year. He focuses on fighting corruption and reducing the influence of wealthy donors while advocating for working people. He's a former teacher, and he strongly supports public education and pushes for policies like expanded healthcare access, government reform, and fair economic opportunities. He also supports LGBTQ+ rights, immigration reform, and frames his message around unity, his Christian faith, and making politics more centered on everyday people rather than elites. My introduction to James was through a clip on TikTok last year of a bill hearing. Ms. Noble, the representative of District 89 in the Texas House, wanted a bill to be passed that would make it mandatory for schools to carry the 10 Commandments in classrooms. I saw James step up to the microphone and give an incredibly compelling argument against having the 10 Commandments in schools, one that was almost entirely rooted in his own Christian faith. I'd never heard a politician who was able to weave quotes from the Bible into an argument I personally found compelling. I think using faith as an argumentative tool can easily feel divisive in modern politics, but this clip stuck with me because of his well-informed and intentional and sincere way of speaking, and it gave me hope. So when it came time to pick a senior project in early January, I remembered that hope, followed it to James's website, and from there became a volunteer. So back to what I actually did. Firstly, what is a volunteer deputy registrar? Pretty much, it's just a volunteer who's authorized by the county to register eligible voters, so I'm able to register people to vote in Travis County. To become a volunteer deputy registrar, I took a class online with other volunteers and then had to take a test online, and after passing that, I received the form that you can see on the screen over email. And I was also mailed a voter registration certificate saying I'm certified to register people to vote in Travis County. I can't show mine on the screen, like for privacy reasons, but this is what it looks like. My first hands-on experience as a volunteer was through phone banking. Phone banking entails calling voters to share information, helping identify supporters and undecided voters, answering questions, and providing resources, and it encourages voter turnout. To phone bank, I would first join a Zoom call with other volunteers and a proctor, and then I was given a number to call. This number is part of a system that automatically calls other numbers on the list Team Talarico has of people we need to reach out to. So the people I was calling saw a phone number on their screens that was different from my own. If you're a voting adult, you've probably received one of these calls. I know they're sometimes not the most fun on the receiving end, and I will tell you that on my end, it also began as not being very fun. If you'd asked me a few months ago what the most daunting way to talk to a stranger is, I would have said, second to just knocking on their door, definitely calling them. I've always avoided phone calls as much as possible, and the first phone bank I participated in, I definitely felt this fear, but I found that the people who did answer really just wanted to be heard. This is a screenshot of what the phone banking script looked like. I know you probably can't read the screen, but as an overview, I could see the voter's name and number on the top right, along with key information about James, his policies, and goals. I would introduce myself and ask if the name I had was available, and then I would use the script I was given to guide the conversation, selecting responses based on how they answered. You can kind of think of the phone banking script like Russian nesting dolls. Every page and script had another script inside of it that I could access by clicking the response that the person I was talking to had given. I found the system to be very effective. I didn't have to memorize anything, and this helped relieve me of a lot of that initial anxiety I had talking to people on the phone. And like I said before, people really did just want to be heard. I definitely had people who were frustrated I was calling, that's to be expected, but I was surprised how many people actually wanted to talk. If the person we're talking to is a strong supporter of James, part of the script asks if they'd like to be a volunteer. And one of my first phone banking experiences, I asked a man who said he loved James if he'd be open to volunteering, and he started telling me about his life. He would love to, but he was having knee surgery in a few weeks that would make him immobile. His daughter was driving down to help him. She would vote for James too. I had similar experiences with other calls. Some people had been at work all day and hadn't talked to another person outside of their job. These calls couldn't last very long, but it was a window into other people's experiences that really impacted me. We were all very different ages and genders and jobs, but we all wanted the same thing. I found the same connection on the phone banking Zoom meeting. We would all stay in the Zoom with our mics muted while we phone banked, and after really successful or unsuccessful calls, volunteers would write their experiences in the chat, and we would all laugh or offer our sympathies. I phone banked every week or twice a week when I could for the first 2 months of this year, and I really don't know how many people I called in total, but to give some perspective, the first phone bank I was in, there were 13 of us, and in the 2 hours we worked, we called over 10,000 numbers. Block walking was the next fear I had to overcome. Block walking entails going door to door in neighborhoods to talk with voters, sharing information about James, and encouraging people to vote or get involved. Block walking is pretty similar to phone banking in that you have a script to follow. We were given physical scripts on clipboards, as well as flyers to leave at houses where no one was home, or to give to people who didn't have time to talk. We also used an app called Minivan, which also had a script we could look at. I'll play videos of what the app looks like in just a moment, but I want to note that for privacy reasons, the videos are from YouTube and not from anyone I canvassed. So at the start of every block walk, we would be divided into pairs, and each pair was given a code that we could enter into our Minivan app. After entering our unique code, the app would then show us a map, like you can see on this phone screen, showing houses within the area of our block walk, or that our block walk was covering, of registered Democrats who we could talk to. Normally, the area we were given included a couple of streets to cover and was a short drive away from our initial meeting spot, so my pair and I would drive to whatever street we decided to start with and begin walking. The Minivan app would also show us our locations so we could be sure we were in the right spot and talking to the right people. When we were ready to talk to a house, we would click on the house in the app and their address would pop up, and then we would click on the address and we could see the names of the people we were talking to, their ages, and their gender. We would knock on the door, introduce ourselves, and ask if one of the people on our list was home, and then follow the script in the minivan app or on our clipboard, or mark them as not home if they weren't. Over my time spent block walking, which is almost every weekend of January and February, I estimate that I knocked on over 500 doors, had over 100 conversations with voters, and walked well over 20 miles. Like I said before, if you'd asked me a few months ago, I would have said the most daunting way to talk to a stranger is face-to-face, especially when I'm knocking on the door of their home with a clipboard, trying to give them information they might not be the most interested in hearing. But over the course of the few months I block walked, I went from literally shaking while talking to voters to being almost entirely off script. The tone of my block walking experiences was set during my first block walk. I was paired with an older woman named Jeannie, and as we were driving to our first street location, I wanted to break the tension and start a conversation, so not really knowing what block walk would be like, I asked her if she'd block walked before and if she'd had any crazy block walking experiences. I was expecting an answer like someone had yelled at her or a dog had run out in the street, something like that. But she told me that her craziest experience was in 2008 when she was block walking for Obama's first presidential election. She said she knocked on the door of an 80-year-old woman's house who had never voted before, had a conversation with her, and got that woman to vote for Obama as her first vote ever. Hearing this gave me a lot of hope that the canvassing I was doing could make a real change. Over the course of this project, I met so many volunteers like Jeannie, who all had a story that gave me so much hope and alleviated a lot of my ideas of division I had preconceived. I heard stories of excited teens like me who'd be voting for the first time, religious mothers of volunteers who'd be voting red for the first time, families who had just gotten their citizenships who were voting for the first time, and so many older volunteers working towards a better future for their children and grandchildren. I actually gained a lot of respect for baby boomers. I also worked with Falasha Day, my mentor, who I'm so grateful is able to be here tonight. She is Travis County's regional organizing manager and the most on top of it person I know. If I got a notification from the volunteer organizing app Slack that I mentioned earlier, 9 out of 10 times it was Falasha Day giving volunteer opportunities and dates and times and so much more. I worked with her in voter outreach through another app called Reach. That's a really easy way to get the word out to your contacts to vote. If you're a teacher at the school, I probably asked you if you were voting. If you're a senior, I know I texted the group chat multiple times with voting information. That was all the influence of Falasha Day and voter outreach. And her work as the regional organizing manager of Travis County really paid off with Travis County having a huge voter turnout. Absolutely, yes. I was also able to meet with other local politicians. John Busey, who's the District 136 representative in Texas, seen on the left. I don't know if, you can see. Vicki Goodwin, who's the District 47 rep, seen next to him. Cheryl Cole, who is the current District 46 rep, seen next to her. And finally, Jeannie Hinojosa, who's running for Texas governor. I really recommend looking them up if you're able, especially Jeannie Hinojosa. She is so outspoken and well-spoken and has a big task ahead of her beating Greg Abbott in November, but one I know she's capable of doing. And finally, I was able to meet James Talarico. I had a teacher ask me this, and yes, he is as kind and genuine and well-spoken in person as he is online, and it was truly a pleasure to get to talk to him. I told him, I'm a senior in high school and a volunteer on your campaign, and I want to thank you for being a role model in politics for young people. And he responded, thank you so much for your time, and it means so much to hear that. Keep doing what you're doing, and I intend to. I gained so much from my experience over the past few months, skills I know I'll bring into college with me in the future, but also a feeling of community outside of my bubble, being part of an effort bigger than myself, something meaningful, something that has given me so much hope. The first thing I will urge you to do if you're eligible is vote. We live in a democracy, and your vote is your voice. I also urge you to learn more about James Talarico. There are so many resources online, from his own YouTube channel, Facebook, Instagram, and website, to Late Night with Stephen Colbert and Joe Rogan's podcast. He's done debates on Jubilee, been interviewed on CNN, Fox News, CBS, and so much more. Whatever your method of getting information is, there's a way to hear it from James directly on every platform, and I encourage you to do so. I also have a QR code that you're welcome to scan that will bring you to his Instagram that has information on him and his policies, as well as ways to get involved. Something that surprised me over the course of my project was how accessible all of the work I did was. Even if you don't want to block walk, you can still phone bank from your home, and if phone banking isn't your thing, you can still text bank. There are so many options and so many ways to get involved that anyone is able to do. And if you're feeling hopeless or helpless or stressed, I urge you to get involved. If 13 people can make 10,000 phone calls, and if one conversation can inspire an 80-year-old to vote for the first time, imagine what all of us could do. Finally, I want to give a huge thank you to all of you for being here tonight, Falashade for being willing to work with me and for all the work you did on the campaign, my faculty support, Professor Prince, Amy, who gave me so many helpful notes on presenting, and finally my parents for supporting me and instilling in me values that carried me to this project and that will carry me into the future. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Yes. Yeah. Ooh. She asked if I was president, what are the first 3 things I would like to do? That's a very deep question. I think there are so many things I would like to do. I guess following in the footsteps of James, I would like to change how we think of each other, in our society. He talks a lot about how billionaires want us to see each other as divided left and right, but we're really divided top and bottom. I feel like I'm just gonna, if I was president, I would just kind of spew James. Yeah, he's a big role model to me, so I'd follow in his footsteps. I'd probably elect him I'd bring him with me. Sorry. Yes.
Hali, first of all, that was an incredible presentation.
Thank you.
I really think you should be so involved in the democratic process at such a young age. It's really inspirational, I'm sure, for all your classmates, but to those of us adults who are here too. Just really incredibly proud of you.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Do you have any plans to hold a voter registration event as the general election comes closer?
I do. That's actually something that I'm pretty certain I'll do in college. I'm going to college at UT, and there will be lots of opportunities for me to work as a registrar. Yes.
Did you notice changes in volunteers or the people you were meeting on block walks or whatever after the Colbert interview? That seemed to have been a lot of press.
I didn't notice, he asked if I noticed any changes in volunteers pre or post Colbert interview. I think a lot of the volunteers on this campaign were here from the beginning or were working for months. So I didn't see any new volunteers, but I personally felt a lot of hope after that interview. I think it gave him a lot of, nationwide coverage. And yeah, I think the change was that we had a lot of hope after that. Yes, Amy?
Do you
What was the craziest thing? I didn't have any crazy experiences. Mr. Phillips has had crazy block walking experiences. You should ask him. But I think the most impactful block walking experience I had was my first with Jeannie. The first house we actually went to was also an older woman, and Jeannie told me, like, let me show you how it's done. You can just, watch me for the first couple of houses, and then we can split off. And she started talking to this older woman, and they started just, sharing how much they wanted to get involved right now to better the future for young people. I kind of talked about my, ideas prior to this project that I had of, division, and I talked about gaining respect for baby boomers. I genuinely did. So many older people on this campaign who worked as volunteers just really impacted me in how much they cared. And yeah, sorry. Yes, Dr. Stats.
Hali, I'm so proud.
Thank you.
You've done something in this presentation. You talk the talk, you walk the walk. Warmed my heart. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. DeLeo.
I'm just enjoying the Dr. Stats fans up and say that I feel less stressed just listening to you and more hopeful. Are you going to work on the November campaign?
I really hope to, yes.
It's going to be different, nastier.
Yeah. And we can all work on the November campaign. Yes.
Have you ever come across any names or people you recognize or knew?
Like block walking or phone banking? I didn't come across anyone unintentionally, but I was kind of joking about this with Falasha Day. When we were text banking or reaching out to our contacts through this app Reach, in the app you can look up anyone and it will show you what elections they voted in, and I was having a little fun with that. I was just, seeing, it doesn't show you how they voted, but I definitely looked some people up. Yes.
Okay, Hali, I'm a huge Talarico supporter, and I have gone to rallies and did a couple of ads up there. And I've actually signed up for phone banks, and I would say I chickened out and canceled because I felt so much consternation about knocking on someone's door and then what if it's someone on my face, or so I have to say I'm really inspired that you did that, and I think that my son has been enlightened.
Yay. Kind of speaking to that, sorry. I think I realized, within my first phone bank, and it carried over to my block walks, that, I didn't see myself as Hali, I just saw myself as a Talarico volunteer, and I didn't take anything personally. I talked about people being frustrated on phone banks. My first phone bank, someone, didn't yell at me, but was just really annoyed that I was calling them at 7 at night. And I definitely felt bad about that for, a second, and then I was like, oh, it's not personal at all. And I used that feeling block walking as well when people, what are you doing here? It's like, oh, I'm a Talarico volunteer, I'm not Hali. So yeah, it's very helpful to kind of make that separation. Sorry, Carson.
Either block walking or phone banking, do they typically, because there was the midterm, were they directing you towards Democrats, independents, Republicans, and does that change over time, within the final election? Would you be calling any party affiliation, or would you be calling specific types of voters?
I was working specifically within the primary election. I'm not sure if, will I be calling Republicans? Sure.
So
basically, leading up to the primary, we primarily reach out to people who are Democratic voters and usually vote in the primary. And so when you're going up to these doors leading up to the primary, it's definitely people who are more likely to vote for Talarico. Going into the November election, we still at the beginning are likely to do primarily Democratic voters, just because we know a lot of people are going to be a little bit uncomfortable coming in there at the beginning. But as we lead on, it can also include a lot more independent voters and some people who may have voted Republican in the past, but their record shows they're very likely to vote Talarico in the future. And so we're really focusing on, we have a lot of information in, so Minivan basically is the like app version that shows you some of the information that we have on the back end in Van, so Big Van. And in there we see a lot of stuff about people's records that lets us know if they're more likely to vote for Talarico, and we send you all to those doors. So you're not very likely, for those of you who may be apprehensive about block walking, you're not likely to go to any door where someone's like incredibly angry about you for bringing up James. At most, it was during the primary where you may go to a door and someone was like a driving pocket supporter and they'd be like, I don't know if I talk to you. And that's cool. And then at this point, you might have someone who like is leaning towards the other side, but no one's gonna be like just,
Okay, thank you guys.